It's Tattletales here. I'm here to talk to you about 911 dispatcher jobs. I actually tried to record this on a previous occasion, and there was a technical difficulty, but I'm back again because I really do want to teach you as much as I can and get you prepared for these positions and help you if you're interested. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how I became a dispatcher and some of the things that I had to do, and to let you know that while the process can be a little bit lengthy, don't give up your regular job until you get a job. The process can be a little bit lengthy, but it's still quite doable. One of the first things we have to consider is, can you pass a background check? Now, these positions answer the phones for the police department. So these are police jobs. These are law enforcement positions. So if you have any recent criminal activity, you're not going to be able to pass a background check. If your criminal activity is 10 years old, 8 years old, 7 years old, maybe something that happened when you were a juvenile, definitely consider the position. We can always check on what happened and determine if it's a possibility for you to be hired. I have worked with people that do have things in their background, but they happened a long time ago. They happened when they were juveniles, and perhaps they were misdemeanors. Naturally, a person that's a drug kingpin shouldn't apply. But if you're interested and maybe you did a little something, maybe a petty theft when you were 16, and now you're 30, totally different situation, and it's totally possible. So when I first got my position, I actually had a family member that was working in the field at a large agency. My family member was a supervisor, and he asked me if I was interested in a position. Well, I didn't know anything about the job. He gave me a flyer, and I read the flyer. And it had all kinds of tasks on it that I didn't understand. All kinds of tasks that I didn't understand. So it said you had to maintain the safety of field personnel units. It said you had to update the computer system with unit locations and activities. It said you had to be able to run people in something called JADIC to find out if they have warrants. It said all types of activities, including things that were assigned to you by your supervisor that may not be noted here. So pretty much anything we need you to do, we need you to do. And I knew I didn't know how to do any of those tasks, so just as I was about to toss the flyer into the trash, at the very bottom it said, "No experience necessary." So I thought to myself, that's me. I can do that. That's me. I have no experience. And to this day, I feel like I have no job experience because I am a career dispatcher. If I don't dispatch, I can't do anything else. I can't be a waitress. I can't be a Walmart greeter. I can't do anything. But back to you guys. I got this flyer and I started looking at job openings. It's so much easier nowadays because nowadays everything is on the computer. You don't have to take a test for a job and then wait for a postcard to come and tell you in 6 to 8 weeks if you passed the test or not. So now you can start looking, hop online and search 911 jobs near me, search 911 telecommunicator jobs, search 911 police communications jobs. Often these jobs are listed under different titles, so you really have to look. And keep in mind that there are lots of jobs for dispatchers. You can dispatch at a police department, at a sheriff's department, security job. There are hospitals that have security departments and they need dispatchers. There are schools, campuses that have entire police police departments, and so they need dispatchers, because dispatchers are the people that tell the police officers and the fighters where to go. So you have to get creative. And remember what I said, if you have any questions, subscribe, like, comment, subscribe, and tell me what your questions are. I will answer your questions if they're more specific. Questions, comments, concerns, I definitely want to hear. So you've started looking for your positions. I would say apply to 2, if not 3 positions once you really get going. And keep in mind, this is a lengthy process. Maybe even just 2 at a time. It's lengthy, and there is some work involved. You have to want it for yourself. This is not going to be like applying for a job at JCPenney where they tell you that day if you got it. This does take a little bit of time. You'll find out if there is a job opening. Nowadays, most of these positions are listed online, and the initial application is completed online. They're going to ask you for multiple references, so you've got to get your people together. Remember, you're going to need the people that know you as a good person, and you're going to need all their contact information, name, phone number, email, address. Most of these people might only get an email from the background investigator, but you want your people who are responsible and understand that this is serious grown-up business, and I need you to return this survey and send it back to the background investigator. He has a lot of work to do. He's working on a lot of applicants, and if you're slow, you may lose out on a job. So you want to get these things done and turned around as quickly as possible. So if you haven't already done it, start collecting the names and contact information of several people. I suggest up to 10 people wouldn't be a bad thing, and then maybe get your top 6 people. You know, people that may actually work at a law enforcement agency, people who work at responsible positions. Those are the ones that you want to get to be your references. Next thing that will happen is they will call you in and they will say, hey, can you come in for an oral board interview? Typically you'll have the oral board interview, or you'll do the critical test. Now the critical test is actually a computer generated test that only tests you on your current knowledge. You almost can't really study for it unless there's some things you really don't know. If you're not aware of north, south, east, and west, this would be your time to teach yourself that. If you can't read a map, this would be your time to teach yourself how to read a map. They do test you on mapping because you have to know how to get places. You have to know how to articulate to the officer how to get someplace if there's a detour. So you do want to learn how to read a map if you haven't done so already. Critical will test you on short-term memory. Critical will ask you to take several sentences and rearrange them in an order that makes better sense. So you can hop online and search critical. Spend some time on this. This is serious business, the way we do when we're looking for a new pair of shoes. Typically we spend quite a bit of time on things that don't make any difference in our lives. So search critical, CRITICALL. You will find a little bit of information, not much, but you'll find enough to let you know what to expect. Typically, you're going to be someplace a couple of hours taking that test. They won't tell you right then if they passed it, but you'll know if you can pretty much rearrange some sentences to where they sound better. Short-term memory, they're going to read some information off to you, and you have to plug it into the computer after they stop. But the trick is there's going to be a really long beat at the end of these numbers and letters, and so you have to figure out a way to make yourself remember that. And then after the beat, the computer will let you start entering in the numbers and letters. Remember map reading, spelling, pretty much basic knowledge that you should already have as an adult person. So you take your critical test, that'll be a couple of hours most likely. Some people might take a little bit longer, don't feel bad. They'll tell you how long you can take for the test, and you simply do your best. And hopefully you pass it that first time. If you don't pass it, the good news is lots of people take the critical more than once, and what's on it. So you can't beat that with a stick, can you? So like I said, the next thing that will happen is the agency will call you in for an oral board interview. Now some of these actually are kind of tricky, but you can prepare yourself quite a bit. As I've said, there is a lot of information online. A lot of smaller agencies still start off with really easy job interview questions, like, tell me a little bit about yourself. And remember, this is where they want to be impressed. These people want to hire you. They want to move you to the next phase of the hiring process. If you have experience, you're going to be great. They want you. If you don't have experience, this is where you can say where you went to school, what type of classes you took, what type of work experience you have. They don't want to know if you're married. They don't want to know if you have children. In fact, you really don't want to tell anybody at a job interview if you have children, because that lets us know you're going to have child care issues. But back to the oral board interview. You don't want to tell people about your health, and that includes your mental health. It's against the law for them to ask you about your orientation or if you're married, etc., etc. And they definitely don't want you to tell them about your health conditions or anything like that. After they get through the basics, they'll start to ask you a series of questions, and you'll see them writing down your answers. They're taking notes. Hopefully, if you're pretty articulate and you get along with people, you're able to look them in the eye, and remember to shake hands when you come in. These are mostly old school people. They want you to look them in the eye and shake their hands. This is not like meeting somebody on Tinder where you can swipe and not look at them. You have to look these people in the eye and shake their hand and sit down and start answering questions. Obviously, don't chew gum, don't bring your keys loose with 10 things and a pom-pom hanging on them. Don't bring a giant purse with your stuff falling out. For goodness sake, if you have your cell phone, put it on vibrate, turn it off. This is important business. You can't have your phone making noises while you're trying to talk to people about giving you a life-changing position. Yes, these are life-changing jobs. Most of them come with tremendous benefits, retirement programs, and a reasonable salary where a person could live independently without 5 other roommates. So back to your oral board interview. They may ask you things like, what have you done to prepare for this position? And if you have no experience, that's okay. Can you take a class? Can you do some research? Can you study the map of the community that you're interested in working for? The area of the community that you're going to be working for is called jurisdiction. You can say, I have been teaching myself jurisdiction. If you have internet access, most of us do, open up a map and start teaching yourself the map of the city. What streets go north and south? What streets go east and west? What are the 100 blocks? What are the major landmarks in your city? Is it a Walmart? Is it a Dairy Queen? Memorize some addresses, help yourself, and start figuring out things in the community. Maybe start teaching yourself 10 codes, police codes. A lot of these things are online. You can listen to the scanner online. Listen to, it doesn't have to be the agency that you're trying to apply with, but tell them, I'm listening to the scanner and I'm able to understand what the officers say. You may not know the meaning, but you're teaching yourself something. And trust and believe, I am impressed, and I have sat on oral boards, I am impressed with someone that does something to try to help themselves. There is a class that is available at many community colleges. Police communications, 911 dispatcher course, post dispatcher. Post stands for police officer, standards and training. No, they know you're not going to be a police officer, but they call the class post dispatcher standards and training. So the post 911 dispatcher course is available. I know that there are busy people out there, but again, as I've said, these are important positions. It takes a little bit of time to get these jobs, but if you want to get your foot in the door, make them take a second look at you, impress these people at this interview, I worked with a young lady that took herself to the local community college and took the 911 dispatcher course. Now, when you're not employed by a police department, the course is a whole semester long. You have to pay for it yourself. You have to buy your own materials. However much a community college course costs in your area, you'll have to pay for it. However, I look at short-term sacrifice for long-term goal. Now, if you're employed at a police department and they send you to the post-dispatcher course, it's a 2-week course. You're in, you're out, and of course you don't pay for it yourself. This is work-related. So let's say you get through the oral board interview. You've passed, they like you. Keep in mind there are several other people that they're looking at. Smaller agencies are highly competitive. They typically only have 1 or 2 jobs. If you're trying to get into a huge agency, then yes, they may get you in there, and you're really going to have to work. You're really going to have to hustle. The large agencies typically hire classes of people, and once you get hired, they teach you, train you in all sorts of classes on how they want you to do the job at their agency. So after you finish with your oral board interview and you pass it, you may start to get requests for different types of things, such as a physical, a psychological exam, a drug test. A drug test is actually pretty easy. They will have you come in and submit a quick sample. If you haven't been using drugs, that's not a problem. If you do use drugs, you should stop using drugs if you want to work at a police department. The physical exam is actually very lightweight. They'll check you out. You probably won't even have to change your clothes. They might do a blood draw, and again, it will be a very quick physical, as I said, very lightweight, and it's, again, nothing to worry about. Now, the psychological exam typically will be a 15-minute appointment with the psychologist, similar to what your job interview is. However, they will ask you lightweight questions. How do you handle stress? They're not going to ask you what happened to you when you were 3 years old. Tell me your deepest, most darkest secrets. They're going to talk to you about the career position. How do you handle stress? How do you teach yourself things? How do you get along with others that are different from you? However, most psychology exams will actually ask you to take a written exam. Those are usually multiple choice and can take several hours. And they will ask some odd questions. I remember one of the questions I was asked was, do you draw pictures of small children? Do you draw pictures of children? And I remember thinking to myself, we overthink things. I remember thinking, well, I do sketch, I do draw a little, but what they're really looking for is, are you drawing pictures of children? And they'll give you 6 options for the answer. Yes, agree somewhat, don't agree, neutral, disagree, disagree strongly, that kind of thing. And you'll have to sit there with the pencil and fill in the bubbles. If you want to work at JCPenney, this is your chance to get up and go. But to be quite honest, these positions are actually worth the work to get in. Once you get in, that's it. You'll train, you'll learn your position, and you'll have a skill set that will get you a job anywhere you can speak the language. Now let's say you take care of your psychology exam. They may ask you to come in and meet the chief. Normally in most agencies, if you meet the chief, that is a really good sign. The chief normally doesn't meet someone unless they're pretty much going to be hired. So be really excited if you get to meet the chief when you come into the department and sit down as part of your hiring talk to your references. They may even come to your house. It'll be a very brief visit, but they do want to verify that you live there. They may talk to a couple of your neighbors, and they will ask you to get the neighbor's contact information. They won't just randomly show up at a neighbor's house. They will ask you to get your own neighbor's contact information. I've had to do this in the past. It was kind of embarrassing because I really didn't know my neighbors. I had just moved in the home. So I had to knock on the neighbor's door, introduce myself, and tell them, hey, I just want to let you know the police are coming to your house. They're going to ask you a couple of questions about me. It's nothing bad. I'm just applying for a job, and they just want to know if I throw wild parties or anything like that. So you'll be able to tell them the truth. I just moved here, and everything will be fine. Now I'm trying to think of as many things as I can to assist you on your job hunt. If you think of anything you'd like to know about, let me know. As I said, I'm super excited about this position. I can't wait to teach you. I can't wait to help you with all the questions. Can't wait to help you with all the questions that you have. I know I've been receiving a lot of messages, and I'm trying to think of all the questions that I've gotten so that I can help as many people as possible. The next live, I'm probably going to sit down and ask you guys really in more detail what it is you want to know. And I hope you kind of got to see a little bit of the area here. I'm actually in California, and it is a gorgeous day. So if you have any questions, definitely get in touch, let me know, and I will be more than happy to answer them. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.